Hello, everyone. This is Sodax605, and I'm coming to you now to let you know that I'm building a new park from Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Um, I have spent many years ever since this game came out, and even more so in the recent years, the last 5 years or so. I'm just scouring the internet, YouTube, um, other image sites to understand how people have put things like this together. I've been intrigued with this game since it came out, so I've been kind of doing the basics, but nothing really deep, nothing really scientific until just now. Um, I never thought that people could do all kinds of things with it. I've seen people do kind of custom sceneries with it. I've experimented with custom scenery, but it never was my forte. It wasn't something I could control, so I just got rid of that, which is kind of a shame, but that's okay because I'm more into stability than actual chaos. so, um, so here we are. What you're seeing in front of you is not new. I've had this idea in my head, and I've done it a couple times. All I've simply done is just went into this settings part of the map and find it for you. Here, and I believe I'm not sure where it's at now. I can't find it. There's a place here where you allows you to in the control panel, literally. That's it. See how? Yeah, I'm pretty dumb right now. I know. Sorry, it's late. Um, there is a part here where you can get. I'm so sorry. There's a part in here where you can expand the park's area, and understanding that concept, understanding that reality. I've kind of you know done that many times, and I've learned that on my own just by looking at other people's work and kind of understanding it and how it works and stuff. So this is the kind of the layout that I made when people come in. Um, I've seen people where they have it go all the way back here and then out a little bit, but mine is pretty well local. It just kind of starts here. When you start creating your scenario, and this is how this is done. I was able to input or put into place trajectory arrows where people will start warping in, if you will, and then I create entrances like this of any kind, which I should change because of the theme of the park that I'm in question. But nonetheless, I was able to um, set this land off to the side as an entrance. This is not my part. I don't own this part. But during the scenario customization process, you can um, add things to this. But the thing about that is that they can only interact with it as if they're going into the park. They can't sit on benches. They can't do anything with this because it's not your land. So therefore, they just simply ignore it. And I learned that too. So as they come into the park, as you can tell, this is where it's ended. This is where it's been for like the last 6 months. I've never really messed with it until just the last month and a half. So what has happened? Well, I guess I think that I studied and researched a lot of people's work and creativity, and it's bar none quite phenomenal. Um, Granted, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 only gives you so much to work with, and that is kind of sucks. I mean, there's no other, they didn't provide anybody with any additional download packs that they would create additional to what you know additional what they would provide you in the game. They did not give you additional stuff. So what they gave you is what they gave you, and it's up to you to use it. But over time, I guess as the story goes, people started using third-party applications to create custom scenery. And again, it changed the whole fabric of the game. And there are a lot of simulation games that are like that. I don't want to say who they are because we're talking about this, but there are quite a few number of simulation creative games where you can add custom scenery to it, and it just completely changes the dynamics of the game entirely. And that's kind of what they've done with this. But I tried that, And the only pitfall for me is I just don't know how to integrate it very well. It has its complicated moments. Some have instructions, some don't. So stability wasn't really an option for some cases. So it wasn't really working. So I got rid of that real fast. And now we're just stuck with this. So as we're here, I've expanded the park by nature. I gave it more land, and then did that, and then created this part, and this is where we've been ever since. And ever since then, I've been scouring videos and stuff. And so I came up with an idea about creating a Western theme park, but not just sticking to the few rides that would be restricted to that. I've decided to use most of what I could at my disposal, and so it's quite interesting what I came up with. And so it's quite difficult, but it's quite interesting. So the first thing I want to show to you first, as you come this way, back out because there's some things I want to kind of show you, no spoilers. This roller coaster right here. So this coaster is the first coaster that I made and completed. It's gorgeous. I can't describe it to you any better. I was having a really bad day, and I don't know why this happens to me, and I guess it's psychological. I don't know how else to describe it, but I was having a really down moment. A lot of things kind of hit me one day. It was hard for me to be happy, I guess. So I just kind of sat here and I thought, why don't we just create this roller coaster? So, first of all, its name is called Colebrook Canyon. And as you can tell, there was a reason for that. There's all this. There's canyons. There's a river. There's lake here. There's little streams. All that kind of stuff. Little towns along the way, and on and on and on. Well, Colebrook Canyon, I named that after a real place. Now, it's not really called Colebrook Canyon. It's called Colebrook Lake. But the point is, I kind of stuck to the same theme. Colebrook Lake is a little lake nestled in the Black Hills in southwestern South Dakota, and near the town of Hot Springs. I've been there, and you kind of go into this canyon to get to this lake, and so that's kind of what you do in this coaster. You kind of stick to the same theme, and so I developed the terrain first, very simple but hard. That's one of my downfalls of this game, is that the terrain development is very hard. It's quite frustrating. You got to be in a good mood or a mood to think to create something like this. But I did it, and all I did was create 3 or 4 hills, maybe 3 hills. That's all I did. And I didn't really use the tool here, which is the hill tool, which is what this is. To create the hill, what I did was I used like little blocks. There's blocks that you kind of like stack on top of each other or raise above the ground, and then I created around blocks around that, and then so forth and so what. And then I went here to round off the edges to equalize them down as slopes, and this is how I got them. This is the only real way I can do it, because if I start using this tool here, it just comes up all weird and not real. So I thought, well, let's just take most of our time doing, which I'm not kidding you, it was mostly a lot of time to do. It was very time consuming to create hills like this, of this fashion. And I mean, I had to redo it. I had to start the game over, just wipe it, where I began after the entrance. And it took a lot of hours to create what I have here. Now, there's a reason why I have a lot of trees. I'll take that off before I make a mistake. Is because it hides the imperfections in these hills. You don't really notice them, but if you start deleting trees, you might notice that there's some unevenness inside these hills. And that's going to happen in this game, because this game is not perfect. It's the first kind of 3D rendering game that kind of came out back in 2003, I guess, or something. Or 2005. That's a long time ago. So, but still, even at that day, it's very advanced for gamers. So, especially for me, who does something like this. So, as you can tell, I finally came up with the solution, and I've been stuck to it ever since. Then, I worked on the coaster. So, as you can see, the track was laid out. I just kind of went with the flow, kind of designed in my head where each turn should be, what should be there, how should it cross, all that kind of stuff. So, there's been a little bit of the principle of scientific knowledge here that's involved. of kind of like getting the writer to think, where are we going with this? And so, and you'll see in a minute when we write it what exactly what I'm talking about. Then after that, I added these little buildings. Now these buildings are on the side of these hills, which are tunnels, and you'll see again, how they fit into play. These buildings are, I call them mine shafts, really, because that's kind of what they are. But there's nothing really in them, so there's no really thing. But because this would be like a western mountain scene, you would in fact see mines. So there's like reflectivity of little ghost towns here. There's even a ride that kind of adjacents this, which is actually a mine drop. So there's these little suggestions to say that this is kind of like a mining thing going on here, a mining theme. But it's not a mine train coaster. Let me remind you, it's not that at all. What it is a standard roller coaster with roller coaster tracks, and I didn't think about that until after I made the tracks, so I wasn't going to go back and change it. But this is kind of what we did, and it crosses rivers, it crosses lakes, it crosses canyons. And so, what I want you to do is, as we write this, I want you to think about what you would feel like if you just like wrote this for the first time. Coming over these cliffs, these hills, these waterways, and think to yourself, how awesome this is. Because when I wrote this, when I had written this over and over again, it felt like this ride had meaning, and I don't know why I say that. It just had some characteristic to it that had purpose. It just gave the whole entire center of this layout a purpose, and then it can kind of expand from there. So let's get started. Let's go here, and let's ride this thing. Okay, so that was that, and it's quite amazing how when I ride this thing, it just never changes how I feel about it. It's very it's like you're actually getting that rush through your face, your hair. You feel that force as you go up and down to the hills and the canyon and stuff. What really intrigues me the most is these tunnels I created. And the thing I want to draw your attention to too is that these buildings light up. So I'm gonna switch the lights off for a moment and show you what I'm talking about. And it's really cool because nobody really got this idea going about lit up buildings. Really, people don't really entertain the dark scene of their theme parks, and I can see why, because it takes a lot of power in your PC. And at the time when this game came out, PCs were not as powerful as they are today. So more and more people are trying to do that, but it's not really an option for them. They just stick to the daytime scenery, the daytime life. But when you turn the sun off, these lights are just comes on and it becomes a different world. Literally, you are in a different world. It's so cool, you know. I look at this and it's just, there's no words that can describe it. And I'm not saying that it's boastful or anything. It's just so awesome to see how this feels. Now, the one thing I don't like about Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, and I have to say this as a critic, because realistically, roller coasters do have lights that go up and down these hills naturally, and I guess I could put some in with these lanterns that are provided, but normally in any scene of a roller coaster, there are lights that kind of, you know, go at the angle of these things. And I wish they had that option. Again, you know, they didn't provide one. So, but anyway, so this is what it is. This is Colebrook Canyon. It's my first roller coaster, completed roller coaster I have ever done. Let's turn the sun back on. That I have ever done and loved and appreciated it, you know. So yeah, so it's nice. I can't wait to see how this will do with people when they start lining up to ride this thing. How much this is going to impact the people in the game. I'm sure it's going to have some kind of impact in the park, because this thing is just like, it's huge. You've seen it. I don't know if I showed you the ratings on this, but this I had a problem with, a big deal problem with, because wooden coasters in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 are not really, they're just, you got to be careful with them. You got to kind of touch them up a little bit, because they can be very intense and they can just draw people away because they're so intense. But for some reason, and this is the first time this has ever happened, the exciting rating I got was very high. Now, I can theorize with you. I think it's because the buildings and the trees and the way the landscape is laid out that kind of made it that way. Okay, I think if there was more terrain, the numbers would go up. Maybe, perhaps, I'm not sure. But that's one thing I've never been able to achieve until now. Then you have the intensity factor, which is 7.23. I don't know the scale, how it works, but it's pretty high. And as you can imagine, you can see why. There's a lot of dips, a lot of turns, and, you know, ups and downs. So that kind of has an issue. I can see that being. But the nausea rating is medium. So I'm thinking that this could be for like young adults, you know, upper teens who can kind of handle that. But as people get older, as people got older in the game, their tolerance starts to wear, and they don't want to ride something this intense. I'm sure there's more intense rides in this game. I'm sure, but this is one of the most intense rides I have on there so far. Okay, so that being said, this is Colebrook Canyon. Now, we have a problem. But it's not really an issue, though, because I'm kind of working around it through imagination, but my imagination is kind of getting slim. It's kind of running out. And you know how you hear of people who write novels and books and stuff, they have writer's block? Well, I'm having that issue right now. And there's a reason for it. Sticking to the Western theme, as I've chose to do, there are only few rides or attractions inside Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 that would reflect on that. We have this one right here, as I told you before, the Mine Drop. Now this is a given. This is a no-brainer. I mean, and the reason why this is here is because it's in close proximity to Colebrook Canyon, so it kind of gives you that extensive look. Like, okay, this is a mining area, so there's actually a mine shaft here. And so what I've done is I've placed it here. The scenery that I have in front of this queue and exit building here that I've created very quite nicely, reflects on the scene of how people are in front of a mine. There's one guy camped down here. Obviously, he must work at the mine. There's an electronic mine thing going on. You know, that kind of stuff is actually happening. There's actually something actively happening here to suggest that that Cobra Canyon and this ride are linked. They're together. But we get into this. So, because I couldn't come up with some creative names for things, this is the best one I can come up with. And this is the Enterprise that the game provides us, but then I changed the name to Wagon Wheel. And you can kind of see why I did that. Wagon Wheel is, it spins around like a wagon wheel. It goes up, you know, like the Enterprise would, but it looks more like a wagon wheel. So I kind of gave it that distinction, that's what it was. And giving it that horsepower theme, that was fine. That was kind of easy to do. Then I made this drop tower, which is extremely high. And again, there's a reference to that. This is called Devil's Tower. It's the highest known structure in the park, and it will always be the highest known structure. Nothing will surpass it. But the reference behind it is the Devil's Tower in Wyoming. It's a landmark attraction. You can see that from anywhere at any location in the park itself. So if you were to walk around, you'd always see this Devil's Tower existence. And when you get on top of it and you ride it, then you can kind of see what's going on for a brief moment and stuff. So I also created a building here to allow people to get in the, the buildings. It's kind of nice. This one here, now this one, let me explain to you. This is kind of interesting, and I don't have any pictures anymore. I don't know. I should have downloaded the image, and I wish I did. About 10 years ago, I was just, when I was starting to get really into this game, and I was starting to study what people were doing, trying to get into the dynamics. And at the time, even 10 years ago, people didn't have it in it to do a lot of stuff with it. They just kind of did what they could, and they did whatever. But as time moved on, they learned how to crack codes, they learned how to make custom scenery, and on and on. So during that process 10 years ago, I was thinking, is there really Western themed like parks in the world? And of course there is. And I came up with this one interesting ride that looks like a super loop. Now it's somewhere in New York, and I never can find the image again. Somewhere it's out there, and if someone can find it or someone knows where it's at, please let me know. I'm dying to find out, because it's what inspired me to make this ride happen. But instead of calling it a super loop, they call it the revolver, and then you can kind of see why, because you look at the ring. It's like a bullet casing where it just goes around and around, and so basically it kind of gets that feel like it's bullets going around, and so and the train itself is like a bullet in itself. So in a sense, so I called this the revolver after that ride, that flat ride. Somewhere in, I just don't know. It kind of bothers me. I can't remember. This is interesting. I have mixed feelings about this. This is a log flume ride, but look how extensive it is. Look how long it is and how large it is. Most log flumes that I remember seeing or seeing pictures of, they just are very simple. They're not very exquisite like this. I spent a lot of time making this. There's no real scenery around here, so I may not even keep it. It's kind of up in the air right now. It's kind of deciding what I want to do with it. I may even just move it. May just copy it. There's a feature. There's a feature here. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Yeah, where's that? You can tell I'm really not good at explaining things in games. It's kind of sad. Maybe, okay, so here it is. So when you go here, you have this save button, the save ride. But when you save the ride, you have a choice to save the scenery along with it. I may just do that and pick it up and move it somewhere else. God, I wish that worked in real life. And then I might just actually put it next to Cobra Canyon, which again would ensue that this is part of a mining operation / lumber operation. So, and that's what this really represents, is that this is a lumber like mill um, go away, a lumber mill that kind of exists. So, and the activity of the mine actually increasing, them digging out jewels and gold and stuff. They're actually also, you know, having a lumber, you know, occupation here. And so these structures here on the ride actually reflect that. So let's ride this ride, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You'll see it. Okay, so that's that. And the name of this is Old Timber, and that kind of fits very well for this because a friend of mine in Minnesota, him and I were talking one day, and I asked him, I said, "What should you name? What would this name? What should we name this?" Like I told you guys today, tonight, um, the background behind why this exists, and he came up with old timber. I thought, well, that would work because it's a lumber mill or something like that, so it works. But like I said, it kind of seems like it's out of place, out of sorts. It doesn't seem like it should be there. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. I do have the enact to do that. So we move on. I'm in the process of right here of making some kind of like a little kids attraction area. But I'm not sure how successful I will be with this because as I started with you before, the entrance of the park is going to be really reflected with that, like a tamer type stuff. I want people to kind of walk ways to get these really heavy duty rides that we just kind of seen. So I'm not sure if this is kind of where I want things. If I do want them, how do I want to organize them? This right here is going to be a restaurant. As you can tell, these little inlets of pathways are going to where benches are going to go, lights are going to go, and on and on. These are all, restaurants and souvenir shops. This is the entrance buildings to Colbert Canyon. And so we have here a ride that I also got inspiration for. It's the frisbee, and I'll show you what this one looks like. It's quite interesting. That I realistically grabbed it. It's a discus, sorry. Discus or frisbee, yeah. That's the original name for it. But again, I saw in a picture, and this was just weeks ago, of somewhere in a amusement park where they had this, and they called this a sidewinder. And so again, Western theme, you have a lot of snakes and stuff, wild animals in the area that may threaten your livestock or even you. And so the sidewinder kind of fit the description very carefully because it's a pendulum ride. It rotates and swings, so like a sidewinder, it worked. Fit perfectly. Great. So this part here, I'm going to add more trees and then maybe a attraction out here somewhere. Because you want to kind of hide this from, people per se, only because it's just something I'm trying to achieve. This here is funny. So the story behind this, the double inverter, is so one day I was just yesterday, I was thinking what we should use this, and I'm thinking, but what would you call it? I mean, is this a Western theme flat ride? I mean, even, or is this something that you just use in genericism? I mean, what would you use this for? So I was just thinking again, and bucking bronco, but that sounds more like a childish ride, if anything else. But maybe not. I don't know. I thought about some names like rodeo or the bucking stallion. I'm not sure. We'll see about that. But like I said, if you guys have any suggestions on some names or some ride matchups with some names, don't hesitate to write that down. I learned from criticism on that. Ideas are great, so keep the suggestions coming. This hill here, I just put this here. Okay. I was messing around and I thought that I could just probably make something out of it, but it looks kind of like in the way. So I'm not sure if I'll delete it or just keep it and put trees on there or whatever. I'm not sure. Or even put a maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But over across, this is it's a swing ride. Kind of unusual to see at a Western theme park. But in Denver, Colorado, at Elitch Gardens, they have this swing ride like this, similar to this, and they call that Turn of the Century. And that's kind of what this is called too. It kind of took the name. Because we're now, the frontier of the Wild West was actually occurring during the late 1800s, early 1900s. So this is kind of turn of the century thing here going on. And then over here we have a structure that's housing a boat or a rowboat, ride. And this is what it looks like. So it's called Mighty Mo for a reason. The Missouri River that goes through some of the states in the country can be quite large. People do travel there on boats, but as you can see from what I've done here, I've created an enclosure around this little thing. I thought of this today. I think it's quite special. And so there's some lights in here, I guess. But yeah, so the structure is real nice, real put together, real sound. Like I said, I'm just experimenting. So as I go on, as time moves on, I'm gonna start experimenting with more stuff, learning about what people have done and stuff. So that's gonna have an impact. This thing right here, I don't know. So this is a Western style version or themed version of the rotor. Now I wasn't really going to use the rotor generically because it has the word rotor on it. So I thought, well, let's try and see what this is. And all this is the rotavator, which is no different. But it's a barrel of dynamite, basically is what it is. And this does the same function as the rotor does. So we left that, I kind of left that bare for speculation. And then this one's called the Roundup because, you know, it has a Western like action to it. And on and on. So we move on, and I think we come to the end. Yep, we're at the end. So, but there's one more I want to show you. One more thing I want to show you. Lay down. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Oh, here you are. There you are. Perfect. Now this thing right here. There are many names that this comes with. There's one in Denver called Accelerator, XL8TR, Accelerator. There's other names for it, but this is really called the Canyon Swing. And I don't think that's a really proper name for it, but that's kind of what, there was a swing that goes through a mountain canyon in Colorado called the Canyon Swing, so I thought, why not? Let's go with it. So, there's a lot of work to be done. I haven't really scoped the surface of it yet. What you've seen here is what I've been working on. I will let you know in a couple days, so what I come up with. Things might change, they may stay the same, I may do nothing, I don't know. But I really want to kind of give you guys an idea, a audio diary and a visualization of what this is like, what forming one of these things with Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 is like, because I know they have a lot of videos on this, like people do dramatic series on how to create a park like this, but for me, I like to discuss my thinking. I like to discuss my planning, and so it allows other viewers like you to kind of, you know, fill in my thoughts. You know, kind of give me some ideas of what you can play around with. Maybe show some pictures, guide me to some links that may suggest, hey, I've seen this before. This is where I got this from. Check this out. On and on and on. So I'll keep you posted in the next couple of days. Hopefully by then I'll have something going on. If not, that's okay too. And I'll see you then. Good night.